Hey y'all, hey, it's me, Portia, your host of Lifin podcast. And I'm here once again with another episode of Life Be Lifin. Thank y'all so much for joining me per usual. I am here today with a new episode talking about that I have titled I am far from weak. Okay. Don't play with it. Don't play with it. Don't play with it. All right. Before we jump into the episode, I would like to introduce those who may be new here. This is Life Be Like the podcast with your host, Portia O. On this podcast, we talk about how life be over here, life and via all types of relationships, situations, and everyday things we are experiencing, all while in real time healing and learning how to be a better human being. So if you're about that life, you're in the right place. And welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. First segment, I got some questions, y'all, because y'all know I am inquisitive and I'm always going to ask all the questions. Who in your life has made you feel weak for being kind? We're going to ask these questions to ourselves for those who may have had this struggle similar to me. People taking my kindness for weakness and see what we get out of it. Okay. So, again, first question: who in your life has made you feel weak for being kind? Me personally, I have had quite a few people in my life try and attempt to make me feel weak for being kind because they choose to see life through a lens of negativity and destruction and bullshit. Like, it's the whole thing. But yeah, whatever. It's been quite a few people in my life. What do you do to prevent this from happening? I think you can do a lot of different things, but the most important thing that you can ever do is stand in who you are, right? Stand in your most authentic self. And if your most authentic self is being kind to people, do not, and I repeat, do not allow other people to project their mess on you to make you feel less than or feel weak or inferior because they are out here moving in such a manner, right? Another question is, why do you need to find strength in being your total self? But why do you need to find that strength? Because I believe when you have strength behind you to move and be in the space of oneself, you have strength enough to stand in your authentic self, then you can be accepted as your authentic self. It's when we waver, it's when we're unsure about ourselves that other people become unsure about us, start to describe you and put descriptors on you that aren't don't even apply to you because of their own stuff, right? So I think that's why it's important that you stand in you and find your strength in being your total self. If you want to be kind and loving and graceful and all of the things towards people and towards yourself, then don't allow other people to make you waver in that, right? And the last question: how often do you question if being kind is the right thing to do in circumstances? Child, I question it a lot because me, Portia, in my flesh and bones, some people cannot be worthy of your kindness, right? But Portia in her spirit, that's not your judgment to make. Okay. God tells us to love your neighbor as you love thyself. And I want people to treat me with kindness and love and care, and therefore I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm not going to allow these people, because of certain circumstances, for me to question my kindness. My kindness is a core part of me. That is who I am. I'm not doing it to get by. I'm not doing it to get people to like me or to validate me. I'm doing it because this is who I am at my core. This is who I want to be at my core. And so that's who I choose to show up as a kind person. And also, if something goes to show for when you're a kind person, how people receive you in a different light, right? I can be combative, I can be rah rah, I can be a lot of things, but when I show up in kindness and when I choose to be, something that this world per se is really lacking in, which is kind to people who we look through our lenses as undeserving of kindness. Um, it speaks much louder than any words or attitude or volumes or anything like that, right? So somebody is changing somebody in this scenario, right? That's evident, but it's not in a negative way. Most times when we think about changing someone, we think about, oh, I'm gonna fix this thing about you. And it could be in a negative or a positive way, right? Or I could show you better than I could tell you type thing, or he just need or she just needs me to show them, and that's been me before, show them kindness or show them love because they have never seen what that was, or show them what a true friendship is because they never really experienced a true friendship before. But I think it's a different mindset when I'm not going to allow you to change me. I will change you with my positivity and my good outlook and my kindness in general before I allow your negativity to infiltrate me. So it's more so like the light and dark thing, right? Especially if you encounter somebody that is dwelling more on the dark side of things. And I'm not talking about like low key, it is demonic. But I'm just saying, it's not, it don't even have to be that deep, but just somebody that's not so nice to people. And you don't have to, it's like, I'm not going to switch up because that's where you're dwelling. I'm going to keep dwelling when I dwell. Okay. And you're either going to accept that I dwell in that space or not. I mean, because at the end of the day, you dwelling in a not nice place or a darker place is not good. Okay. No, I don't care how you try to slice it. And I've been there. I have done it. That's not who I am in my core. That's me being in a state of agitation or having an attitude or not feeling good or feeling overwhelmed or feeling, you know what I'm saying? That's a much it's a more surface thing than me at my core. I'm mean, bitter. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not who I am, right? So, but at the core of me, I am a kind person. Yes, I have been met with a lot of bull crap and a lot of type of terrible people that dwell in that more surface level of emotion and or have allowed things in their life to make them bitter and angry and upset and all of those things that they present in such a manner to think that it's just a defense mechanism, essentially to help them navigate this thing called life. But I don't choose to dwell there, right? And so I think it just says something for people that can stand in who they are at their core. All right. So I hope that makes sense. I was having some technical difficulties with this Wi-Fi, but that's okay. This is just my life experience. Okay. This is where I tell you an interesting story about my life. Oh, let me think of a scenario, child. It's been so many. Okay. There is a key point because I have dealt with a lot of issues of self worth and self esteem, self love, all of those things. And me and my daddy issues and all those things and trying to find love the way I thought I could get it or I deserve to get it in certain scenarios and situations in men that I have been in relationship or situations with. Okay. Um, and even the situationships have been a key point of people taking my kindness for a weakness. Okay. So I tell people all the time, I have always set out my intention with dating is to date with the purpose of being in a relationship with someone, right? I have never dated like casually, like, oh, I just want to get to know somebody just to be getting to know somebody, or I just want to have sex with somebody, or I just want to have, like, it's always been with the intention of being in a relationship. I am a girlfriend and wife material type chick. I like to be in a monogamous relationship, have my own person, and I be their own person. That has always been my stance. That has always been my goal. And yet and still, I have found myself in many instances of not being that, right? And lowering my standard in different things because I'm so kind. One instance, and I'll just speak on this one. One instance, I was dating this guy And again, I went into it with the intention. I'm like, oh, this could potentially be my boyfriend. Like, I like him. Let's see what it is, what it's giving. And it was giving, okay, like I thought I would like him, right? But his approach to the whole situation was real like basic, to say the least. At that time, because again, low self esteem, low self worth, low self love, your girl was out here like, I mean, it's cool. I'm willing to work with you, baby. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't the best thing because it yielded me nothing but time wasted and foolishness. But I learned a lesson, i.e., here I am sharing it. I was very kind to him. I knew his circumstances. He knew mine to an extent to what I let him in on, and I'm sure the same thing, vice versa. But there came a time that he needed help, right? And so I told this story on another podcast. But anyway, I'm going to tell it again here because it's just a perfect example of my taking my kindness for weakness. And I think when we first interacted with each other, and you know how now for me, I can people's insecurities and most of the things that need to be healed within them shows up like it screams to me like I can read for days now and people be thinking they hide certain things. I'll be like, oh, like internally to myself, like, oh, you're struggling, you're insecure, you're really not that confident, you're really not that strong, you're really, you know what I'm saying? Like I could see that in talking and speaking with people, but I empathize with them because baby, your girl be over here on the struggle bus. Y'all already know. Y'all already know. So it's not coming from a place of judgment. It's just like, oh man, I really see you. I see past what you're showing and presenting. I see you. Okay. So anyway, back then I wasn't so obviously in tune with myself enough to recognize my own stuff, let alone somebody else's stuff. Okay. I was like, oh, he's just trying to figure it out. We're in our, 20s. Like we just trying to figure out life and get this thing, you know what I'm saying, going or whatever. And so because I wasn't where I felt like I should have been at that time in my life, I definitely gave grace to other people not being in that same position, especially men, right? He was kind of living with a sibling or whatever, and I knew that whole situation and us still giving grace, and I was like, oh, it's whatever. I was living in one spot by myself, my first apartment. I was living there by myself, and I had to move, and this should have been the first red flag, girl. Just dumb. So I had to move out of my current place into my new place. And we were newly talking or whatever, but we have been talking enough that if this is a potential man that I'm going to have in my life, why couldn't I ask him for help? Or why couldn't I depend on him to show up for me in this way, especially since she had been spending time at my house. You know what I'm saying? So I told him I was moving. I asked him for help, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll help you. I got this and that going on." He ended up not showing up, and the move ended up taking the whole day. Me and my friends at the time had did the thing or whatever. And it's not that I had a lot of stuff, I had more clothes than anything, but it was just still like he could have helped me. Like he really could have helped me, and he chose not to. And when I was like upset in that moment. Like I can't believe he didn't show up for me because that spoke to me so greatly. Like I can't even depend on you, but yet and still I want to be in a relationship with you. Like just dumb. Anyway, but I did feel some type of way about it at the moment, and I was like, "Watch, you gonna call me later once everything is said and done." And sure enough, he called me later on once everything was said and done and was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry I wasn't able to help you. Da, 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 da. I got caught up with this and that, da, 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 whatever." And I just took it on the chin and was like, "Oh, okay, it's fine. I totally understand because I am so kind to the core of me, right?" And again, I'm so used to suppressing Portia's feelings and how neglecting Portia, and I want to make you feel okay, for not showing up for me. Ain't that some shit? I moved on and we kept progressing in our relationship. He came to the new place, and again, I knew that he was staying with a sibling. It was kind of crowded situation, and so he started spending nights at my house, right? And I allowed this because, again, I'm like, I'm just helping out, you know, my friend who I'm trying to be in a relationship with. And so I'm being kind and all the things. And he was taking advantage of the situation. I mean, we're going to call a spade a spade. At that time, I didn't look at it like that because I was just like, girl, like, you talking to this guy, like, why not? Like, it's not a big deal, but it actually was a big deal. And if I would have stood on my standards and known my worth, I would not have allowed such things to transpire, right? So this continued on for about almost 2 years. I know. After the first holidays had went by, and he didn't invite me over to his family's house, and he was a big family guy. Never would invite me to hang out with his family outside of us like kicking it and drinking and chilling type of nights. Like the holidays, no, he was not inviting me. And I kind of felt the way about that. And I was like, why wouldn't you invite me, but you spending all your time with me? Like you're at my house every day, sleeping in where I pay the rent and the lights and all the things. And yeah, yeah. And then after he kicked it with his family, I kicked it with my family and hit me up and we hanging out that night. Like it was the oddest thing, but I accepted that behavior for so long because I'm like, one day he's gonna see my work. One day he's gonna see that, this girl holding me down. She got my back. I'm willing to go through the fire with you and whatever. But I don't think he ever viewed it that way. This was me in my head. He probably was just looking like, oh, I came up on a lick. She got her own place. She let me stay here. I ain't got to be in that crowded apartment with my siblings. You know, like it was just a real opportunistic situation. And I was really trying to build it up to be so much greater. It kind of came to a head eventually, 2 years later. It came to a head for me because he kept doing the same thing. It was a repeated cycle, repeated taking advantage of my kindness. Like, I'm doing all this for you, and you're like, whatever. It was coming out very dismissive, very much like I'm not going to give you what you want ultimately, Portia. Even to the point that I had lost my car in the midst of this time, and I was asking him to help me get back and forth to work or help me get to a bus stop at a certain time. I wasn't living in the best of neighborhoods, okay? So and he was even reluctant to help me in those aspects. But again, you want to lay up in my house every day. Make it make sense. Like, and so I was questioning a lot of that while it was happening, but I still was so too kind to open my mouth and say, hey, this makes me feel this way, or when you do this. And I did try to speak up at moments and be like, I don't really like this, or this is how it's making me feel. And he would try to explain it away. And to the point that I had an incident that I was took the bus home, I was walking home, and I wasn't sure if he was at the house because I ended up giving him a key at one point because our schedules were different, so I could help him get in and out or whatever when I wasn't there. And did I give him a key? I don't remember. Anyway, so I was like hitting him up, and the bus wasn't coming. There was a lot of snow outside, and I was like, "Hey, can you meet me here? Are you still at the crib?" Like at that time, he should have still been there, and he was like, by the time he responded to me because he wasn't answering the phone, he was like, "No, I'm not over there. I had to rush and go do something for my daughter or whatever." Some plain Jane ass excuse. And I was like, whatever. And I was really in dire need because this particular day, a van was following me. And I peeped the van. I pay attention to my surroundings, and I peeped this van following me. And I was like, it was a white, like one of them vans, okay? And I was like, okay. And so, but I'm walking down the street by myself, so they kept circling the block, and I'm hitting it like it's snow on the ground. I'm in my boots. I'm trucking it down the street, and I'm like blocks away from my house. But and nobody really is outside because it's actively snowing and it's cold, whatever. So I see this van keep circling the block, and I see the people in the van. There's two men, one in the driver's seat, one in the passenger. But it's like a white van. The rest of the back of it, you can't see nothing in there. So I'm like, nah, they ain't about to get me today. And I heard about people grabbing people and throwing them in the van, and that's that. So I was like, nah, they about to get me. So I saw this man in his driveway shoveling his snow. After I kept repeatedly calling the situation ship, and he wasn't able to come through for me, yet he was laying up in my house that day. Anywho, I saw this man shoveling his driveway, and I stopped because the van kept following me. This was for blocks. And so I stopped at the man house like I knew him. And I know that was risky and that was taking a chance, but it was God, obviously, telling me to stop there. And so I stopped at the man house and I was like, hey, I don't want to startle you. I know you don't know me. I don't know you, but this van is following me. I peeped them. They've been following me for blocks now. And I'm afraid to walk all the way to my house in fear that they will follow me all the way to my house or they will try to grab me before I get there. This Good Samaritan. Thank you, Jesus. Black man was like, "Oh, it's no problem where you live at." I said, "I'm around the corner." He was like, "Well, I don't have no car enough to drive you." I said, "I don't even need you to drive me because again, I don't know him either." I'm like, I would just appreciate it if you can walk with me the remainder of the way. I'm literally like 3 blocks from my house and around the corner at this point. But I'm like, I'm just afraid to walk by myself because they clearly think I'm by myself, which I was. But anyway, he was like, "Sure, no problem." So he walked with me, and I was like, "I can offer you something." He's like, "You don't have to give me anything. It's fine, whatever." So he walked with me, and we were acting like we still knew each other. The people saw us, and the van circled one more time. I was like, "There go the van, there go the van." He saw them one more time, and then they disappeared. Thank God. The man walked me all the way to my house. I made it home safely. And that asshole answered the phone again later and was like, "What's up?" Da, 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 da. And I was like, I told him the whole scenario, what had happened. I was really in fear for my life, and you couldn't even show up for me. Like, and you were at my house. So you literally left my house not too long before that and went on about your business after you saw me calling you repeatedly. Yeah, okay. And I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back, okay? Because I was done. I was done and with him, and I started speaking up more towards him. And because before that, I really rarely got upset with him and really was expressive towards him like that. But then I started to be like that with him. And he was like, "Where is this?" When I snapped on him one day, he was like, "Where is this coming from?" Da, 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 da. I was like, "Because you got me effed up." Essentially, you've been taking my kindness for a weakness. At some point, they had got put out of their house. So he needed a space to live for real because he was living in his car. And I was like, "You know what? I got an extra room, whatever, you can stay here, whatever." And we weren't even dealing with each other no more at this point, but my kindness. I'm not gonna allow somebody that I care about, because even though he wasn't what I needed him to be and who I needed him to be, I still cared about him. And again, I would never let nobody go out in the cold, like you sleeping in your car, like that's unnecessary. They got put out, you can come stay here, whatever. It's not a problem. But then when he was staying there, now that we've established for real, you're staying here. The man didn't want to participate, help me in the rent, paying any bills, barely didn't even want to use his little link card, how he had it, I don't know, but had a link card and didn't want to give help get no food in the house. Like, it was just super selfish and considerate and ungrateful. And you really was taking advantage of, "Oh, she kind, she cool, it's whatever. I could do her like this. She ain't gonna say nothing. She ain't gonna do nothing." You know what I'm saying? And I got in this whole web of bull crap because I just wanted to be loved. I just wanted somebody to see me the way that I didn't even see myself, to be honest. But I still was willing to go through the fire in order to get to the ultimate thing, which is love, right? I wanted him to choose me. So I was lowering myself and bending myself for somebody that didn't even care, truly. and he really took my kindness for a weakness. Like he knew that I was insecure. He knew because again, people tell you who they are in conversation. All you gotta do is talk to them. And he probably picked up on that I was insecure and had low self esteem and all those things. I eventually moved on, obviously. And I met my husband in the midst of all of this happening. And I kind of told him, after we were kind of getting serious, like, I got this guy staying with me. We're not together. We have never been together. And I kind of told him the whole situation or whatever. And he was like, yeah, you need to tell him to get up out your house. Like enough of being kind, enough of being nice, and all that type of stuff. Like if somebody mistreating you and abusing you, you don't deserve that, right? I gave him that space to make, or I gave him that space to treat me as if I was weak. That was my doing, but also his doing, right? And so now me recognizing that, hey, I actually had strength in those moments. And because I was being kind to him, a lot of people may look at that as being weak. And because I was being kind to him and giving him grace, a lot of people may look at it like you were stupid, you shouldn't have did this, you shouldn't have did that. But I really don't feel like that's who God has called me to be. He needed some place to live. And despite all the things that he has shown me, those 2 years, I still allowed that to give him a space to live because again, why would you let somebody be out on the street if you could do something about it, right? I don't regret making that decision. I do regret or question or not like how I allowed myself to be suppressed and my needs and neglect me for somebody else's security or to feel wanted and loved when I wasn't even getting that in return. Okay, like I always talk about the reciprocated love of things, reciprocation of things. So you live and you learn, right? That really did teach me that, and that's why when my husband did come along and his whole approach to dating me was totally different than anything I had ever experienced with any other man that I had dated. He was so purposeful. He made space for me. He allowed me to be myself and he loved all of those parts of me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so I fell deeply in love with him because of that thing. But had I not went through that experience those 2 years prior to, and I gave up on that situation in the midst of it, I wasn't even looking for nobody. I was just like, you staying here, whatever. And then boom, God dropped my husband in my lap. And me and him would be talking, and the guy would be at the house, and he'd be like, should I leave? I'm like, I don't give a damn what you do. I'm talking to my new boo. Okay? Because you took my kindness for a weakness. And and that's a pet peeve of mine too. Like, you really think I'm weak. Baby, I am far from weak. It's just that God has instilled this thing in me to be empathetic towards people and so kind. But also, God, now I have allowed God to implant in me his wisdom and his discernment. Okay? A lot of stuff I allowed that man to get over with, I will not allow now. But I wasn't weak then, and I'm not weak now. It's just me knowing where my strength lies. Okay. So I said all that to say that. All right. And another part of it for me, my kindness um made me feel or be ashamed to be who God has called me to be all of my life. Like that's just one scenario that kind of played out over some time. And I'm not going to be ashamed any longer of who God has called me to be. God didn't call me to be jaded. I can be jaded. I can be bitter. I could be a lot of things, but I'm not choosing that way of life because that's not who God has called me to be. Shame has been my name for a very long time. I have been ashamed of that because I'm like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I stand in me? Why am I allowing people to treat me this way? But in actuality, nothing has been wrong with me. I just needed to sharpen the tools that are within me and that has always been within me, right? And so I'm doing that now. I'm proud of me and how I show up and present in this life because this is who I am truly. So I'm not taking on that shame anymore. And you're not going to be able to guilt me into feeling shameful or any other way about me being who I am. My kindness has been directly attached to my shame, and I no longer would do it. And unhealed people have offended me into submission. I heard that in the Word of God from my church. I listened to on my bedside Baptist for those who got a problem with it. Anywho, I follow this church closely and I listen to the word of God every Sunday and even past Sunday. Okay. Unhealed people have offended me into submission. And I've taken offense to feeling shameful for being a kind hearted person. I'm no longer doing it. I'm not going to allow you that space or that power because it's not yours. It's mine. It's mine. And because you're unhealed and you got a bunch of stuff going on, you want to project and push me into submission to be what you want me to be. And I'm no longer doing it. I am far from weak. I am not weak because I'm kind. I am not weak because God has made me this way. I am being who God has called me to be. And I am meant to show up in the way that God has asked me to show up. I could be jaded from a lot of experiences. I have went through a lot of things, but yet and still, I choose to be kind. I choose to instill that in my children. I don't tell them the world ain't never gonna be good to you. Trust me, because I didn't experience some things and it ain't did me right. I could be miserable and depressed and ornery and all the things because of what I'm going through, i.e., my divorce. I could be that way, but I'm not. I still know God is going to bless me with another husband because I'm still called to be someone's wife. That is a part of my purpose. I am still going to love on people. I still will marry people. I will still support people that are in love and in marriage and all of that thing. I still think it's a beautiful experience. I'm not jaded because of what has happened to me. I'm not going to stop being kind because of what people have done to me. I'm going to be me. That's me at the core of me. And you should recognize what's at the core of you. Don't listen to what the world has to say. Don't allow them to make you be offended into submission. Don't allow shame to be your name. You are a kind-hearted person. It's nothing wrong with that. And just like you're a kind-hearted person, there are people out here that are evil. And it's evil spirits within them that dwell and allow them to be in that space. But you don't have to be over there with them. That's not a place you have to take on. Yes, this world is evil. A lot of things happen, but also you can find joy every day if you choose to. If that's where you want to dwell, do you? Because that's what I'm always going to do. So that was just my life experience story today. I am far from weak. I wasn't weak then, and I'm not weak now. Because of my kindness, I am just a kind hearted person, and I always will be a kind hearted person. Period. Segment. Tools from the toolbox of life. Here's where I give advice, resources, and tools, or anything else that will benefit you all, my listeners. Okay? So I'm going to share it. Today, I'm going to share with you this cute little project that my baby Leah school is doing. And I just think it's one of the most amazing things ever. This tool is the Positivity Project. Okay. For those who don't know, Leah is in second grade. She's 7 years old. She's amazing. I love her so dearly. Anyway, I think it is so important and so amazing that the schools now, the education system, is delving deep into emotional and mental health. I can remember being in school myself, and they weren't so like invested in it like this. And for them to have this particular project, which is the Positivity Project, that is district wide and implemented in the school and the daily life of school. I just think it's amazing. This project is speaking towards emotional health and awareness towards people and yourself. Okay, so it's basically a whole setup to prevent bullying or anything, and just emotional and mental wellness and health within oneself. And if you have those tools at this young age of 7, or what they start kindergarten at 5, if you have these tools, then they're building blocks throughout your academic career, right? And at home too. So Leah's been learning a lot from this project, and she comes home and she be like, "Well, mommy, you shouldn't do this because that's not this, or this is not that." I'm like, you know what? You're right. Because she's getting these tools at school, she's coming home and implementing them. And I'm just so grateful that we have been blessed in wonderful school districts that want to do things like this with these kids. Okay. So they have this thing called character strength definitions. At the beginning of the school year, they wrote down things that they will describe them. Also, the school sent home a paper for the parent to fill out, things like as far as the kids' strengths and their weaknesses, right? And so they're going to advocate for them, i.e., through me and the child, to help build up their weaknesses and to keep pushing forward their strengths as well, right? So I think at the beginning of the school year, they started off with kindness. And so the care strength definitions is a whole list. I'm just going to name a few here because it's a bunch of them. Integrity, and the definition for integrity: you are honest and speak the truth. You present yourself genuinely and sincerely. Okay. Another word that they gave them, or character strength, is bravery. You act with mental, moral, and physical strength, even when you know things are difficult or scary. Right? Like, these are tools that your kids need to help them navigate not only school but life in general, right? And so kindness was one of the words they had already covered, and I think they changed them, interchanged them like every month. I'm not sure, but yeah, they focus on a new word all the time. So I think in the beginning of the school year they did do kindness, and kindness, the character strength definition was: you are generous to others and you are never too busy to help out. You enjoy doing good deeds for other people. I thought that was so amazing. I was like, come on, with y'all giving our kids the tools, the skills, the healthy coping skills, and knowledge that they need to be a good person at the core of them. We spend so much time in this negative world, and we can so easily project and pour into our children our woes of life as they are happening to us. But also, it's really good that we pour into them these character strengths, okay? Because it builds character, and it was lessen the chances of bullying. It will lessen the chances of people being not nice and mean towards one another and doing different things to try to hurt people, because hurt people, right? And people be going through different things at home. And thank God that your kids can get something like this at school, an outlet that they will be able to bring back home, hopefully. But I know everybody's situation is not one for breeding healthy things, because adults be adulting, and we get caught up in our own stuff a lot of times. But I pray that these kids at the school and anywhere else, that when your kids are learning something like this that will build character, that they won't only just take it in for themselves but share it with someone at home. And I hope that those parents, well, their interest will be piqued and their ears and their minds will be open to receive it from the child, okay, from the mouth of babe. That's what the babes, that's what the words say. So allow your children the space to teach you something, because they can, because they're getting things that we didn't get. And I'm not even that far removed. Like, it's been 20 years since I was in 8th grade. But I'm saying, like, a second grader learning something like this, or a first grader or a kindergarten, like, this is core stuff. And this will also allow them not to be jaded by life. Like these are things we need to instill in them now so that as they go older and life be life and stuff be happening, that they're able to tap into who they are at their core. So I just thought this was a great resource, a great tool to use from the toolbox of life. I printed off the things for me and my girls, and I plan on continually presenting this to them and helping them through life. Okay, with this tool and myself, because even though my character is what it is and I feel certain ways at my core, I can strengthen some areas where I am weak, right? And we all can. So I hope this will help y'all too. Yeah, that was just so amazing. So amazing. So shout out to the school district for doing that for the kids. It's a great tool and resource to use. Okay. All right, we're winding it down. So, like we like in us all. Hey, hashtag the village. This is where I ask you, my listeners, friends, and family, to submit news, topics, and other requests for me to talk about. You already know, hit me up in my DMs or you can email me here. I am always open and ready to receive information from you guys. I am also looking into something very cool, maybe like a voicemail type thing so that you all can leave me messages and I can open that up here. Would y'all be interested in that? I hope so because I'm gonna do it. So yeah, I love to talk. So please hit me up, let me know, follow me, like, subscribe, do all the things on all platforms and help your girl be more discoverable out there for the people. All right. There's a lot of good information going forth. Thank you, Jesus. All right. So we're gonna go to our last segment, which is Speak Life. Okay. This is the segment where I leave you with a call of action for yourself, but not just for you, but for me as well. Every weakness I think I have is God's voice telling me to grow. Again, today's Speak Life affirmation is every weakness I think I have is God's voice telling me to grow. You say it, you write it down, and remind yourself to speak that thing and make it happen because life be life in us all. Thank y'all again for joining me for another episode and installment of Life Be Life the podcast. This season two, and I'm so happy I am here with you. Thank you so much again. I hope this finds you well. And remember, if you need to remind yourself, I am far from weak. Okay? You can be kind and still shine. I love you all. Y'all have a wonderful night.